delighted, Jim, with the second half performance, getting out of the game?
Yeah, I mean, the first half was nowhere near good enough as far as we're concerned, albeit I thought Rangers were very good, and there's a slight concern coming here today off the back of everything that's happened. We knew the atmosphere would be completely different in the stadium, from 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it looked as if the Rangers players responded to that positivity coming from the stands. I thought Rangers were excellent. I thought we were really bad. It was a combination of both. They were good on the ball, but our press was nowhere near effective enough. We were, the distances between defenders, midfielders and strikers was far too big. There was too many open spaces, and Rangers picked us off at times. And we were very lucky to go in at half-time, only a goal behind. We were able to get that message onto the players at half-time, and they took that on board, and I thought we looked a completely different team in the second half. We were a bit more aggressive, we were a bit more on the front foot, we picked up far more second balls in the middle of the pitch, and I thought we grew into the game in the second half. And obviously, getting the equaliser was important. We felt at that point, were we able to get things back on level terms, that the atmosphere might change again in our favour, and you could kind of sense that anxiety coming from the stands. And the disappointment, from us is to be leading and, at such a late stage in the game and not to be able to see it through. It does feel a little bit like a couple of points dropped, but at the same time, had you offered me a draw at half time for as bad as we were, I'm pretty sure I'd have taken it.
Inspiring substitution?
Look, sometimes as a manager you make changes and the guy goes on and is the difference in the game, and thankfully Trapanovsky, he's been very patient, waiting, coming back from injury, trying to build him up because he's an important player for us, and pretty much with his first touch, he does that continuously in training. We've seen it before in games. A really good finish, clever finish, and the second goal I suppose was even better. But the two goals come from everything that we've spoken about in the build up to the game, and that's why we went with the front three that we did in Dolcek, Fata and Sapsford. We wanted to utilise that pace at the top end, but we couldn't get a hold of the ball to put decent service in behind. And the second half we done it twice, and we got two good goals off the back of it. It's much better and much improved second half performance. The big thing for us is we need to start games like that and play for 90 minutes like that, because recently we've been letting the first 45 minutes pass us by for whatever reason. It's very hard to put your finger on it. The message doesn't change in the build up to the game, but we've been giving teams a goal advantage of late and then having to a mountain to climb to get ourselves back in the game. But consistency is the big thing for us.
Jim, you spoke about the atmosphere just changing a wee bit. Like when you got the leveller, did you just sense the tide turning in your favour?
Yeah, look, it's the same. It's not just here at Ibrox, it's not just the Rangers supporters. It's the same when you go to Parkhead, Tynecastle, Easter Road, all these things. As an away team, you've got to try and use to your advantage, and you've got to try and, build a bit of pressure on the home team. And, Rangers, as I said, could have been 3 or 4-0 up at half time, and I don't think we could have had too many arguments. I said to the players that we were very lucky just to be a goal behind, and while it was still 1-0, we were very much in the game. And, could we go out and get that next goal? And thankfully we did. But look, it was before the game, it would have been a decent point. The fact that we were leading, so late on and not being able to hang on is the major disappointment. And that's not the first time, unfortunately, this season that's happened. I think we've got one of the youngest squads in the league this year, and there's maybe a little bit of inexperience and naivety within that. We were leading against Vienna in Europe, we were leading against Hearts at home 2-1, we were leading against Hibs at Easter Road, and in all of those games we never went on to win, and today's the same. So we need to learn quickly as a group, myself included in that, and we need to stop dropping these points, because come the end of the season it could be very important.
Jim, Craig Sibbald's had to be quite patient of late. What does it say about his personality that he's been able to come in and have such a big impact?
Yeah, look, we know what Sibs can bring to the team. He's a really important player within the group since I came to the club. Obviously, we renewed his contract, and he knows what I think of him, as an individual and as a teammate. But the squad is going to be really important. We haven't had, the ability since the start of the season to really have competition for places. We had to ask a lot of a small group of players at the beginning of the season, given the injuries that we had stacked up. But now we're starting to get players off the treatment table. We're starting to get a bit healthier, and you can see the options now within the squad. And to be able to make the kind of changes that I was able to make today and not weaken the team is credit to the group and to the recruitment that we've done. And I'm continuously trying to stress that to players, and every manager out there knows how difficult it is to keep players happy when they're not in the starting 11. But because we performed well in the second half, it doesn't mean things won't change again next week, because we play against St Mirren, who arguably the most physical team in the league, and we might need to bring a bit of strength and a bit of resilience back into the starting 11. But I've certainly got those options available to me now at the moment, which is great.
And I know the goal scorers will hit the headlines, but what for your goalkeeper? Because at half time that game could be out of sight if it wasn't for you, if any.
Yeah, definitely. Cooch, I think, has been terrific since he's came to the club. He's made one or two mistakes that have been exaggerated and highlighted because, unfortunately, in his position, when you make those mistakes, they tend to end up in goals for the opposition. But his distribution is excellent. He's really commanding, coming for crosses, punching, and he makes some big saves in key moments. And today, certainly, he kept us in the game. I thought there was a number of good individual performances. I thought Ferry and Stevenson, in particular, playing against. Gassama for me is one of the outstanding wingers in the league. And he, Lucas Stevenson, done a terrific job up against him, as did Ferry on the other side against Ant-Man. But it's probably not fair sometimes to name individuals, because collectively as a group, the boys showed great character today, and as I said, later on in the season this might prove to be a really valuable point.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, thanks lads. See you soon.